software, But yeah, it is what it is. Sarah, you can open
Okay.
up.
Oh, I think I started the recording.
Yes, you start.
Okay. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Sara Nik's podcast. Today we have an awesome guest, Julian. Julian is a fellow Canadian, and he is based near Montreal right now, to my understanding. Right? Quebec?
Yep, exactly.
Right.
Now, this is my first time coming here. I'm originally from Southern Ontario, and then I spent pretty much my entire adult life in Europe, and then we just came back to Canada to give it a go.
Which is super cool. Okay, Julian, can you do a quick intro before we start?
Yeah, for sure. So in a nutshell, I started my career in tech very early. I myself am quite young. I mean, even right now, I'm 24 years old. I started my career when I was like 13. Basically, I grew up on the internet. I learned everything that I know on the internet, like starting with the alphabet, quite literally. And I really liked creating things and designing when I was younger. So I actually got into design. That was the first step in my career. One thing led to another. I'm trying to figure out how deep to explain it. Ended up getting a job as a designer. And then I ended up starting an agency, which was specialized in web. And actually, Nick was with that agency for a little while. It's called Veza. I don't work there anymore. And basically, that took me down a path of not only management, but also quite a lot of development. And as I got to kind of experience all these different areas of the web, I really got to see where my type of creativity thrives. Because people say creative and think of designers, like visual designers. That's not necessarily the case. That's one form of creativity. Engineers, that's another form of creativity. SEO is another form of creativity. And really, I found my thing in solving problems using whatever technology I could possibly use to do the thing in one day that people said there's no way you could do that in a day. And so I got really hooked on Webflow.
Nice.
Because that's my whole thing. I always say, like, I'm allergic to the slow path. I can't stand the slow lane, whatever it is. If there's a way to do something better and quicker, I will. If you give me 2 hours to figure out a task, I will spend the first hour and 50 minutes trying to figure out a different way to do it. And then the last 10 minutes scrambling to do it in the way you told me to, because you were actually right at the beginning. But anyways, so I got hooked on Webflow because I was originally kind of struggling between like a mixture of WordPress, which was super powerful, super flexible, also super complicated, both for me and for the clients, and, Wix, Squarespace, which was just super easy to set up and super not flexible. So Webflow gave me basically an outlet to express my creativity on the web in a way where it doesn't take too long. The learning curve is not huge, and I can still deliver professional work. So I got really involved in the Webflow community. That was most of my career. And then one thing led to another, and that same goal of being able to do the best possible things in the shortest amount of time, let's just say AI has solved that for me a bazillion times more than any no-code tool ever could. And so for the past, let's say, year and a half, I've been really pushing the limits of what can and can't people do agentically. And at this point, I'm just really excited to kind of see all of these worlds collide. And today I'm really excited to talk about, really, I want to say how a website that was agent-led affects your discoverability as a whole, whether that's through search, through agents, whatever it may be. So that's me in a nutshell, possibly a big nutshell, but it's a nutshell.
I'm super happy you're here today, and I'm sure Nick is as well. But before we start our conversation today, we're not trying to steal Julian's thunder. He's awesome, but we need to take a moment and celebrate Nick's accomplishment. Nick, can you talk a bit?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't want to jump in here, but it was like big news. As Julian said, with someone who also looks to sort problems within the time and to actually create something better, let's say, in profession that I'm doing. And that we are doing. I am super proud to announce that I'm invited by Google to present on the Search Central Live event in Barcelona at September. So I'm over the top happy. I'm actually honored that this is the first Sarah has confetti there that we use for those occasions.
Yes, pom-poms.
Yeah, so I'm very very happy because like this is like for sure like the biggest milestone in my career. As Julian said, and Julia is actually like the youngest, one of the youngest guys that I met who was like super professional. So Julian, we're gonna get back on that. I'm also like over a decade in search. So and yeah, I think Sarah's internet is breaking up. So we're gonna like she's gonna come back. So just to put there, like I'm super super excited. I cannot like wait for September, and I personally like think that like being part of official Google events where only criteria is actually like quality and our achievements. That's like the most important part for me. I want to say I think she you sorry, one
There
second.
we go.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I'm back. I'm alive.
We're gonna edit this for sure.
I was
We're gonna
just moving. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I
super excited.
I ruined the moment. I'm sorry.
No. I finished that like so you can like edit and we can like have the shorts of this. So I'm super proud, and as I said, like for me personally, this milestone is like the peak of my career because like being the part of official Google events is event that only criteria is like what actually you did, what you achieved, and how you actually pushed forward with like your work. And for me personally, that's like super important because like on some of the events we know that like situation is not like that. For me, it is important that like being recognized by people who value the quality over everything else is the most important part. So thank you so much, and yeah, thank you. Like I wanted to actually leave this for the end, but this is also like super important so we can like kickstart a conversation in this matter because like as I mentioned, to get back to questions for Julian. Julian was like one of the youngest professionals that I ever met. When I first met him, I was like he was just a kid back in the day, so like and I was like, what's happening, like how this young person like can have like this mindset.
Nick,
and
you're making me feel like a grandmother here. Like, you're already very young
like,
compared to me. So Julian, I'm really worried. How old are you? Are you like 17 or like I just
yeah.
I'm 24, but I was when he's talking. I guess it was probably in like
Oh.
2022, right? So I was like,
Yeah.
I'm 40. I'm really
20.
old.
Yeah, so no, I'm pushing
That's
also
cooler to
30s.
me than
So
anything.
I'm pushing 30s, yeah. But Julian was like for me personally, like when I met him, it was like inspiration from the first moment. And yeah, I followed his career, and he already like briefed us about that. And recently, when he started, like one of the coolest things that I saw in the tech recently. I need to reach out and to catch up with him. So Julian, please, like I know that you mentioned Webflow, different agencies. After that, MemberStack, which is like product like super related to Webflow, are actually living off the Webflow. Can you like just describe to us what was your path to this moment for Ship Studio and everything you built there? And I really want that you present Ship Studio because for me and Sarah, who are like very advanced in tech and we want to be like AI first and agentic first before everything. Can you just like give us a brief explanation how you end up there and what is Ship Studio?
yes, for sure. So like I said, I had been using Webflow for like everything for a very long time. Not only for websites, which is what Webflow wants to be for, but for web apps, which should it have been used for web apps? I don't know, maybe. Sometimes it can, maybe it shouldn't be. But anyways, so that was what I used. I made my whole career around basically showing people how like you could build anything with this tool. Because let's say you have an idea for a product. It usually dies in your brain because you're like, I'm not going to be able to build that. That's going to cost way too much money, take way too much time. And so I made it my goal to basically show people, no, you can just build this with the tools that hook on these additional things and everything's going to work for you to have an MVP and really start your business. So it was always difficult because Webflow was never made for that, right? But it was doable 100%. Once like GPT-3 comes out, the famous Sam Altman tweet of like, hey, go try this thing. And some people were like, that's never going to work. And, look where we are today. But from that point in time, literally with GPT-3, GPT 3.5, I very often had to work with people who were better than myself at JavaScript to write custom scripts for the Webflow pages because I just couldn't. And so once GPT-3, 3.5 comes around, I'm like, oh, I could spend, instead of, bothering a developer, I can spend 2.5 hours like wrestling AI, and I'll get something that I can actually use here. That was the first exposure for me to using AI in work. I did that a lot. And over time, both with me getting better at using it, but more so with just the technology progressing, I slowly started to be able to do more and more. It went from like a little mini script that adds something to like local storage on your Webflow page to like kind of actual automations that are passing data through, to then it got to the point where I essentially tried to use Cursor. And I'm like, all right, I'm all Webflow, but let's try to get out of Webflow and see what happens. And I was blown away because I was like, this is about 20 times easier than just trying to build this in Webflow. And that was like still like kind of early 2025. It wasn't that good. It was just kind of getting there. Anyway, started using other tools and everything, but I was still working at MemberStack. MemberStack is a Webflow focused company. And essentially, I'm always using these other tools that are not Webflow, but I'm working at a Webflow focused company. And so over time, I just realized I haven't touched Webflow in months. Not because there's no work to be done in Webflow, but it's like, I don't want to. The experience of working in this tool is just blah in comparison to the way that I've been working for the past, at that point, like 6-7 months. So anyways, at that point, I actually had the idea to migrate the site over. We did that. I made a whole video about that, got pretty popular. And really, in a big way, that was what turned the space kind of on its head. If, all of the people who were involved in this smaller, Webflow space, it had always been Webflow's the best. There's no other good way to build a website. Just use Webflow, right? This was what really made people look and go, is that the case? And it got really popular. And from there, people started using the exact same stack to do it. However, I'm looking at this video where basically, here's the thing. When we did this migration, it was done from a place of knowledge, from a place of, we know what could break, we know what could not break. Let's put those together and make the best business decision. But everybody in the space after that I'm getting messages asking for consulting, asking for advice, asking for help of how can we do the same thing? And I'm like, guys, it's so easy. How do you not know this? Just go do it. Just go try it. It's so friggin' easy. But what I realized from talking to people, they're like, yeah, I tried to use this, and they just kind of got scared at the end of the day. And the reason is this. Visual developers and people who are, let's say, their focus is not code, their focus is on the end product. They have become accustomed to having everything in their workflow visible at one time. Development workflows, traditional development workflows. Your average developer has 27 different tabs open, 8 different projects open in an IDE. These visual builders were not made, so to say, for the complete and total mess that is traditional development workflows. However, the usual replacement for that has been a proprietary system which locks you in and, honestly, in my opinion, kind of abuses their customers. Now, thanks to AI, we don't need the abstraction and the lock-in layer in the middle. So we're actually able to build using the best technology, do the best work in the best possible place, which is just amazing. So I made this as one thing that kind of, for myself, to just put it all in one workflow, one by one, and I can get more into that. More and more people started using it. Before I keep yapping.
No, it's awesome. You gave me inspiration for a lot of things I want to talk about, but I want to start off with, you mentioned agentically what can and cannot be done, right? At some point, you mentioned that. From your experience, what do you think can and cannot be done with AI agents? When it
Honestly, such a good question. The way to look at this is from the standpoint of what is an LLM. LLMs are prediction engines. They take what they've been given and they go, okay, what's the most likely thing to come next? For any task that is, let's say, calculation or logic or anything like that, LLMs are at a level where no human can possibly compete with them on those tasks. Again, I'm going to say tasks and not jobs, because the thing is, doing good work often means, especially in certain industries, and I'm going to get more into that, but it often means not doing the thing that's expected to come next. It often means breaking out of these predictions and doing things that nobody would expect and don't make sense on paper, but you know it because you have this special type of intuition. This is the split right here. On any tasks where you are able to do them purely because you have all of this context and all of this awareness and you know the businesses that you're working with, an LLM can't do that because there's a certain magic going on in your brain that cannot be replicated, at least right now, not at least as far as I can understand. But for anything where a prediction is necessary, agents are better than humans at those tasks, period. And that affects all of us in all of our work. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
An engineer, like somebody who codes for a living, they just kind of get a task and then they build it. Like 98% of the job they were doing 2 years ago has been completely offset by agents because their whole job is, I have a task to do. I'm going to use logic in order to translate this basically over into code. Then take a look at a designer. That's not what a designer's job is. And so when you look at designers right now and how much of their job has been taken by agents or done by agents or how much they've integrated agents into their workflow, it's a lot less. It's a lot less because the primary job of a designer, there's jobs, for example, setting up design systems or building screens based on existing design systems. Again, agents can do that faster and better than professional designers can because it's a game of prediction. But setting the direction, not at all. I'm yet to see an agent autonomously set an actual good and inspired design direction. It's usually okay.
So I just want to recommend something. There is a paper called LLMs Don't Jump, something around that. I'm starting to read it. Like I just have it open and I keep reading a line and then getting busy with other stuff. But it does align with what you're saying. Basically, there are things that LLMs can do, and then there are things that require a different type of thing that it's very similar to what you're describing here, right? And it depends on, like if something is mathematical, they can try to guess, right? Because there's always limit, like a right and wrong is very clear there. Yes. But when it's not clear, this is where it can not do what it, and then there's also, it can jump because, as you said, sometimes on paper, everything looks in a specific way, but then you make a leap of faith and come up with a new idea or a project, and it turns out to be great. So something like Airbnb, for example, which this is a random example that just popped in my mind, so it's not in the paper. I'll go back to the paper, but like Airbnb, when they came up with the idea and then they applied to IC, they were like, are you crazy? Who's gonna, like, if you put your house and you're renting a bed, who's gonna sleep at a stranger's house? Like, what is this?
Right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, would you, like, if you think about it, why would anyone rent a bed in your house? Like, you could kill them when they're sleeping, right? Like, what is this? So, and they actually called them. So these guys, like, long story short, but there was. Okay, let's go back to the paper. So the paper gives an example of general theory of relativity and Einstein and how he sort of left the entire mindset in physics mindset and came up with a totally new mindset, right? And it's crazy because when you try to understand that what this man was thinking, it's crazy, right? Yeah. So I'm totally aligned with what you're saying. But how do you think someone who is, let's like go to web development, right? And development in general. How do you think someone who is either learning to code in this new era where we have all these tools, or someone who is just trying to build a tool, how much can they rely on AI? Like, do you think, hey, AI can do the entire job? Can it do half the job? Like, what are your thoughts on this?
Honestly, when I'm talking about what AI can and can't do, I always go down to the word articulation. And what that means is basically, if you cannot articulate what it is that you want done, the LLM, I'm not going to say it can't do a good job at it, but it's more that you don't know if it's done a good job. For example, these people who do these crazy agent loops, and it's going and working for 25 hours autonomously and building and testing new ideas. That could all be gold. And that could all be garbage. But if you don't have a way to know, at the end of the day, who's got the wallet still? The human beings. And so the human beings are the ones who decide what's good, what's worth paying for, what's not worth paying for. And so really the way I see it if you're sitting there, for example, and you say, make me a good design, you're not going to get a good design, because what is a good design? Can you inherently say this is good or this is bad? No, you can't. It's going to give you something. However, if you're capable of, let's say you're a designer, you're capable of articulating what you want to go where, why you want it to go there, because you're trying to convey certain things and you want the user to see this first, and then within 10 seconds you want them to see that. The whole point is, if you understand what you want and what's going on, it can be done better by an agent than by a human. If you can't explain it, it can't be, not that it can't be done by an agent, but you can't do it with an agent, because think about it this way. You're a designer, you work in Photoshop, and you literally have never written a line of HTML in your life. You can't manage a developer. You can't, because they could just slack off and type one line of code every day, and you're not going to know, the difference. Like, you need to know what a good outcome looks like in order to manage a person or an agent. No different. And so that's really what I say it can or can't do. And there's certain tasks that are hard to explain, those ones are really challenging. Beyond that, it's what can you explain? What's up, Nick?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with this. I needed to jump in here because clearly we want to make some slight correlation with SEO and what we are doing currently. So this is amazing opportunity for that. So for me personally, looking in this direction is same with SEO and everything. Sarah, you can clearly give up your opinion on this. But for me personally, what Julian said is aligned with this is the era of operators. So for me personally, it is that you actually know, and that knowledge of execution or knowledge of the final output, as Julian nicely explained there, is the most important part that's most valuable. And I really think in this era when we need to really be realistic and say that a lot of agencies experiencing big transitioning, I'm not gonna say struggle, but we need to be open to that. Market is going through the biggest transition probably in the last 30 years with AI and everything. So I really think it's golden era, for example, for very strong operators who can as Julian said, he got surge of messages. Hey, can you consult me? Can you explain to me how to do this and stuff like that? So I'm just joking. I really think that maybe it's a bad analogy, but I really think that LLM need human brain on top of it, because it is tool at the end of the day, and someone needs to make a full architecture around that, so we can go back based to that, how you're prompting and whatever. But at the end of the day, you just, what Julian said, need to know in your area or field of expertise what is the final output and what is the good output. So I really cannot agree more with this, and I really wanted here to make that correlation with SEO, because in SEO it is the same. Cost of content creation went down, but you need to have operator or content lead or editor who knows how good content should look like. So that's first thing. Second thing, regarding audits or stuff like that, clearly we always use the tools for that. But the difference between high-end expert and someone who is just starting or maybe even acting as a SEO expert is that you're gonna get the data which will present exactly what should present and what should give you the most valuable insights there. So I really think that same with development and everything that you explained there, it is the same different. I think that's for majority of industries, that's the true right now. Good operators who know the final output will benefit the most in LLM era, because AI is the most powerful tool in the humankind. Yes. That's for sure. Yes. So, Sarah, you can jump in, and then I want to ask Julian one more question that I had in mind.
I just today I'm scrolling on LinkedIn. I see someone posting about Claude, the workflows and the stuff people are creating, and they're you don't need an SEO anymore, something around that. And they're Claude can now find you the pages that need to be optimized by looking at your Search Console data. this can be done manually with like a filter or a sort in spreadsheet. Why would I go and get a whole AI agent to do something that's so simple, pay probably more like in tokens and stuff? Like, where's the automation and this? Like, there's, when you want to automate or when you want to use AI, I think we need to be. And then also when you do that, there's also the risk of hallucination you're bringing, right? Like, even if they do that task, right, it's not going to be as accurate. Most probably there may be, few things here and there that you could have easily avoided using a spreadsheet. The thing is, sometimes I feel people are overusing AI for everything, even if it's so basic, and they complicate something that's so simple. And the example I always give when something is so complicated is made complex when it's very simple is like someone asking you where is your ear, and you say like this instead of saying this one, you just go in the other. You know what I mean? Like the whole, yeah. So that's it. Like it is not a wrong answer, but it's just a stupid right answer in a way, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. I have one more question here.
We have a lot, but I know that we need to speed up a bit the pace. I had a question because like I wanted to actually circle back, Sarah, on what you said regarding Claude. That before that, I wanted to ask Julian, maybe like let's separate in two questions. Like, first question is like you mentioned that like people are still scared. Everything you built with Ship Studio is amazing. There, it is open source concept and everything. You can like dig a bit more about that. But I wanted to ask you regarding like agentic dev. What you found that like people are most scared? Like, what is like the biggest problem there? And the second thing that is like for me and Sarah probably the most important thing here, how you found like, and clearly this is like big if you had experience with very complex, maybe enterprise level marketing websites with a lot of CMS collections, CMS items and stuff like that, or you think that like the phase that phase is still like on the horizon regarding agentic dev, and that we still need to experience that like firsthand? Do you think that marketing, like even in Ship Studio project, do you think that marketeers are an important part of that to improve the product, and how you envision, and what's your vision at the end of the day with the Ship Studio to become in the next few years?
Honestly,
I'm sorry.
I mean,
before you, I just sometimes I'm really weird because I always like my hijab to be symmetric. So I'm really sorry if I'm so sorry.
Problem, yeah.
I know, I'm like, what I'm doing? I'm on a podcast. Anyways, go ahead.
OCD. Yeah, sorry, Julian.
Like,
you
doesn't look symmetric. Okay, go.
No. Honestly, when it comes to how ready is it now, it's ready. But again, and it's really, we're kind of going at different angles of the same question here. And that's what can AI do? What can AI not do? And let me tell you one thing that AI cannot do: take accountability. Meaning, if you don't have somebody watching what's happening, and then, something passes through some sort of hallucination, just some sort of problem, at the end of the day, if a client site is down or rankings drop or anything like that, you can never go and say, oh, it's Claude's fault. No, you look like an idiot. It's your fault. It's your fault as the person who is controlling Claude, right? So that is the whole thing. It is as ready for production in enterprise environments as the people who are managing it are. I migrated myself a site which it was about 150 static pages, about 20 odd collections, and about 3,000 items inside those collections. The site had about 30,000 monthly visits. And so that was the site that I mentioned when I worked for the company, when I basically were like, should we do this? I guess we should do it. Let's do it. We were scared of of course, our rankings, because on the topic of SEO, our search was everything to us. All of our business came from Google. And if you do a bad migration and you just forget a little thing here that kind of like sets half your site to no index, that's really bad, And so that's what we were so scared of. I can tell you after the fact that every site migration, you have, a 2 or 3 week like dip in traffic, and then it should return to normal levels. Didn't return to normal levels. In fact, it went up to like very, very beyond normal levels. And then since there, it's just been going up or down depending on the work that is being done. So it is, along with that, we just built a site fully agentically for a company that just raised a $107 million seed round. Like, we are doing this on the biggest projects that we possibly can work on. There's no like, is this ready? Is this not ready? It's 100% ready. It's as ready as the people who are managing it are. And I do want to mention one thing super quick on this topic, which is like it being agents, when you have a clearly defined task, such as let's say adding structured data to a page or making sure the heading structure is correct. When people are like, you don't need an SEO anymore because Claude can do that. Yeah, Claude can do the optimization side of things. But the way that SEO has always been, and big fat disclaimer here, I am no form of an SEO expert, but it's always been about what is your competition doing and how are you doing it better than they're doing it. So we're entering a time where good riddance, good friggin' riddance. All of our sites are going to have good structured data and good clear stuff to present to crawlers, because finally, as somebody who's worked in agencies where all we do is live, eat, breathe, and sleep website, how many times do we miss, the alt text? How many times do we not add in structured data when we could have? Because it's a lot of friggin' work. Now, agents can do that stuff lickety split. Yeah, you don't need an SEO for that. But again, when everybody's doing that, well, then it becomes, how do you look at and find what is it that the other sites are not doing, and then how do we do that? And again, that's not a game of predictions. That's a game of taking risks and taking chances. And that's what AI can't do. It can't take risks. It can't take chances. Never heard anyone say that before. I'm coining that one. But yeah, Nick, just to make sure I answered, I guess, like all sides of the question, then there's the concept of Ship Studio. So really what I'm seeing right now with AI is building is becoming democratized. It's amazing. I'm seeing, SEOs building SEO tools. I'm seeing designers building design tools. I'm seeing developers building developer tools. And it's beautiful to see. And when I first built Ship Studio, it's like, yeah, this could be a business. And don't get me wrong, it could be a business. However,
I want to say something. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to ask a question about something you said like a minute ago, and I don't want to get lost. You mentioned enterprise. How do you think? I know obviously using AI and agents for enterprise level website is definitely helpful in being more efficient, but what situations would you do you have specific examples, use cases where you think that is actually the case, and when it might not be actually? Again, I just said, yeah.
No, I fully get that. Really, it's about what are the stakes at play. If you're building a brand new site, nobody's going to look at it. Nobody's going to find it. Make me a site, push it live, good to go. Oh, geez, I accidentally no index the whole thing. Who cares? It wasn't there anyways. If you do a little tiny mistake at the CBC, for example,
No, there's no such thing as little tiny mistake at CBC now.
You see what I mean? And again, when a computer cannot take
any
accountability,
other website can have a tiny, not CBC. No,
that's the whole point. And so, look, here's the thing. I could go ahead on my site that gets 500 visitors a month, and I don't care about it. I could go and say, go through the whole site, beef up the structured data, make sure the SEO is in tip-top shape. I could do that. And honestly, it'll probably do something decently useful. If you do that here's the thing. When you do that, there's a very good chance that something's going to break because you're not looking at it. You don't know if it's broken. You don't know if it works. You didn't even check, right? You cannot afford to do that at big enterprises. Now, where can you use it at big enterprises? This is going to sound counterintuitive. Everywhere. Meaning, you have a job, which is to build out a page or to optimize a page. You can use AI to do 100% of the work. But after you're done that work, or it's done that work, you're going to look at everything that it did and confirm it, because you don't want your boss coming to you and saying, you, pardon my French, shat the bed, and now we're in a bad position. You know what I'm saying? So that's the line to me. It's really,
it all connects back. Do you have a question, Nick? Because I just
no, you can. I can go after you. Yeah.
I mean, it connects back to something you said earlier, Julian. It's about accountability for the output of an AI or an AI agent, right? You cannot run an LLM and whatever comes out of that, and if there's issues or something, and then you say, hey, that's not on me. Who LLMs cannot take responsibility, and right? It is. You need to make sure you're using it correctly. You need to verify the output. You own whatever is happening there. So like you're using a calculator. If you use it wrong, it's on you. You cannot say, hey, the calculator gave me wrong output. It doesn't work like that. Nick, you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I also think maybe that's like our OCD problem or like control freak problem here. But at the end of the day, however, like I'm sure, like, and I know that my prompts, like agentic workflows, everything is like set up correctly. The final checkup I need to do, like the final checkup needs to be mine always. Like I cannot and I will not believe that Claude, whatever GPT, whatever we are using there, like even if we have like full, as I said, like orchestration of the agents doing everything and they're like communicating whatever, I need to check the final output because like I'm not believing, that like, somewhere like within the whole loop something didn't break. So Julian, like from what you said there, like I still like I'm completely agreeing with what you said there. So I really think that like right now in this phase, it is more experimentational phase where people like are getting adjusted to what we can do actually via agentic dev. And I really think like with everything, even with Webflow, correct me if I'm wrong there, but first websites, they were not enterprise. They was like very small websites, presentational websites, storyline websites that were more based on like fancy designs and stuff like that. I know, like I worked in PHP, in Drupal, whatever, even before and along WordPress, and then like seeing first time Webflow after that Framer and other no-code tools, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is like spaceship for everything that I saw by now. But I also know that like movement towards more complex and enterprise level things took time, even for a very big company, unicorn level company as Webflow. So my question for you, like with Ship Studio and like moving the progress ahead, and I'm sure that we're gonna find a way to use agentic dev for enterprise websites too. So my question for you there is like, do you plan with Ship Studio to include like marketing personnel, like, or like build components around like marketing things, or that's like still for you maybe like for the future phase when development is like fully covered with your ideology what company should become?
Honestly, I see Ship Studio as the place for web professionals to build whatever they need in order to do their job better is what I see being built into the tool. Something that I see always happening with especially these no-code tools like Webflow is it's so simple. They get a bunch of investment and then they're sitting there and trying to figure out, okay, how do we raise our bottom line? And then the roadmap gets completely taken over by silly things which are only useful to a small subset of customers. And then eventually the platform just kind of dies because the people that want to use it are not getting what they want out of it. That was why from the, I guess, start of when I was the owner, let's say, of Ship Studio, I went, this needs to be an open source tool. I need to have zero financial attachment to this personally, because I will not let this tool fall in whatever direction I want it to in order to buy me a boat. I need this tool to be the thing which myself and my peers use to deliver for the web and to make money through working with clients. That's the way I see it. And what direction is it going to head in from there? Whichever direction, let's say, we need it to head in. And as I see these, let's say, worlds of the web collide, you had like these cliques of basically like, I use Webflow, I use Framer. Why are we not all friends? Why is it a crazy concept that I'm now talking on an SEO podcast? Why shouldn't you guys now come and talk on a dev podcast? Like, I love this whole kind of, you know what I'm saying? So yeah. I see specialists still being a thing in the sense of, I don't think we're all just going to be like web builders and like, I'm just as much of an SEO as you are a developer, as they are a designer. I don't see that. I still see us all having our focuses. However, I see it that our focuses are all going to bleed into each other's worlds more and more. So the point, and to answer your question, is I see it heading in that direction if that is where web builders need it to head in. If not, well, then it won't. And as an open source tool, if somebody comes around tomorrow and says, I just made this tool to kind of help with, let's say, like the understanding of your site's discoverability built into Ship Studio, boom, merge it in, and now it's a part of the tool, right? And that's what I think is so cool. Like, I love open source. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I would not trade it for Ship Studio making me $100,000 a month.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really respect that. I think that's like the tools of the future. And I really like support, like, as I said, till the last moment, your vision there. I really think that's the move forward, not like, hiding a lot of features behind paywalls and like, just like trying to squeeze one more dollar there. Also, I really believe what you said, like if the community is like, in need of marketing and stuff like that, it will like naturally build up to that level, similar to WordPress, what it did, because WordPress is like till this day, like, the majority of
Yes.
websites are built on WordPress with huge, like what, 40%, 50%. It's crazy actually.
I will stay
So
that way
like,
for a long time.
yeah, and the whole point there, what I said, like, is I completely like, for me personally, that's the way forward. That's the way how AI building, like, our future in the better way. And that's amazing. I really respect that. I also, this is my final question. After that, like, Sarah can like jump in with her final question if she has some. But for me personally, I saw like a lot of what Sarah mentioned. I said I want to circle back to that. A lot of those cloud automation stuff for SEO part, and clearly like the huge thumbnails, like you don't need agency. I replaced 25K of worth of money of this agency with my cloud, whatever. But the problem is, like, when I see that, I really think you made a great point there, that like we all need to collaborate together, because I saw some of those websites and I seeing that like more and more. Not like I also saw like recently few full agentic websites, and then I go on the content selection. They have everything you said: the canonicals, robot tags, sitemaps, everything is in order. I go there and I see like 3,000 pages and blogs, for example, resources, whatever. Index bloat full, like nothing is getting indexed, nothing is getting managed properly. They're like pushing there, and then like at the end of the day, you need to start questioning, like, is that the part that like they don't know still how to do it? Is that the part, or not only part, is that the problem? What we talked about, like, hey, AI can do all of this for you, and then you're gonna end up with 3,000 blogs with like one of those blogs will not get indexed. You're basically spending your money for nothing, even $20 per month. So my question there for you: do you think, and do you see something that happening similar to developers will building websites, which you can like point out, hey, like, this is super bad. If this makes sense. Yeah. So I wanted to just ask, what is that like in that, and that's my final question there.
Dude, more than anything, it's security. It's security. And like, this is not about the platform. I see people talking about Webflow versus like agentic-led sites, as if that's even a comparison. But anyways, and saying about how non-secure this is. Like, I have seen people paste API tokens in their Webflow page settings. I have seen people do horrible, horrible things with their fully agentic sites. I've seen people do fully horrible things with their hand-coded Next.js sites. I've seen people do horrible things with their Framer sites. I think the best way to answer that question, to really cap off this conversation, is ask not what AI can do. Ask what can you do with AI, because it's all about that. It's all about that. For example, look, does AI possess, well, I mean, they probably have safeguards in place to stop average people.
This is a very nice quote. This is a very nice quote. Can you say it again? I like quotes, so this is a very nice one.
Ask not what AI can do. Ask what can you do empowered by AI. Let's put it that way. Honestly, it's like, so, because let me give you an example. What I was just about to say, and I think that's a good way to end this, is like, nuclear reactors. Nick, Sarah, what the hell is a nuclear reactor? I don't know. What is it? It's got something to do with nukes, I suppose, right? What is it? I don't know. Now, we're talking about nuclear reactors here. Go ahead and find someone walking down the street in front of your house and say, what's a canonical tag? That is equally as understandable to them as a nuclear reactor. In fact, the nuclear reactor, they've at least heard of it, right? And so the point here is, if you don't know what a canonical tag is, you're never going to know whether or not you have your canonical tags. I can now go with a Claude and somehow remove the safeguards and say, all right, let's build a nuclear reactor. And it can come back and say, I've done it. I've cracked the code, nuclear reactor. You can build it in your house. I don't know what the hell it even looks like. I can't build it in my house. You get what I'm saying? It's all about that. And it was a point, 6-7 months ago where we're like, what can AI do and what can't it do? Like the models just genuinely lagged behind in certain areas. I don't want to say it's gone entirely, but like within the next 12 months, it will be gone entirely. The knowledge gap between expert humans and LLMs, if it's not gone already, again, but we cannot do something good if we do not even know that said thing is good.
I guess there's going to be a lot of learning curves and trial and error and experimentation, as Nick mentioned earlier. I know you have a hard stop. We can talk for hours. You haven't seen me and Nick. We're very chatty. We like,
me too.
And it's, tomorrow's a weekend, so we're like very chillante, whatever they call that. Anyways. Okay, so I want to wrap this up by asking you what is something you're working on. It can be something work related or it can be something personal, and then we kind of do like a round table.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say the individual product that I'm working on more than anything, individual project, is Ship Studio. However, what I'm really trying to do right now is just help show creatives in this industry that a lot of us are scared. A lot of us think that this is somehow the end. I see this as the beginning. I see this as the most exciting time to create ever, because the things which have been blockers have been ripped away. And so what I'm doing is 3 things at the same time. I'm building the tool in which I used to work. I use that tool to build for clients. And then I teach people how to do all of that. And so everything feeds into itself. Really, what I'm working on is figuring out how to do cool stuff and then showing other people how to do the same thing. That's what I'm working on.
Amazing. Like, I just want to use this opportunity to thank you so much. Curry, Sara, and I will end up with our focus at the moment and interesting things. Julian, thank you so much. I really think this experiment episode for us, because we wanted to bring someone who is completely off the charts regarding SEO, and I learned a lot. I really think from these episodes that listeners can learn a lot, and I really wanted to give you opportunity to showcase on this perspective that people shouldn't be scared of agentic dev, and that marketing can be equally done on that. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to testing a lot of websites done via Ship Studio for marketing purposes. I promise you that. And interesting fact, when we talk about websites, we are building currently the new agency website. So that's the one thing that I'm looking forward to tighten up the brand, and preparing the talk and presentation for the Google event. That's two things.
Nick, please give me a sneak peek. Please, I'm your partner. Please give me anything that I want to see it first, man. I want to feel like he's my partner. He showed it to me for want to brag about that. Yeah.
Sure. So that would be it. Sara, you can end up, and Julian, please, we want to ask you for the thumbnail photo when we are
for LinkedIn. So for me, I'm trying to find the topic for my next newsletter, and also what tool I want to build next. I like to be excited about what I'm gonna do. I don't want to just hey, let's do this, because when you're excited, you have this creativity and energy. Yeah, and you're enjoying it. It's like you're having fun, right? So these are the 2 things I'm working on right now. I also need to record YouTube videos. So these are mainly the things on my mind. But I also am trying to have a balance in my life between doing all these things and then also giving myself time to have fun and chillax and all these things. That's where I'm at right now.
Amazing. Julian, thank you so much once again. You made this episode so much educational, and I think we achieved the point there. I hope a lot of marketing personnel will look at this, and maybe not now, maybe not 6 months from now, but 1 year from now, we're gonna be here and we're gonna say that founder of Ship Studio guest was guest,
this I'm gonna brag.
Can use for a lot of marketing.
That's why we invited you, so we can brag next year.
Bragging rights in a year, exactly.
Sure. And good luck.
Can you do the thumbnail, Sara?
Yeah. Right. Okay. I should pause the recording first.
I think.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thanks, everyone, and see you next episode.
Bye.